we love you!
Hello and welcome to Tribe Talk, the Galway Hurling podcast, with me, Patrick Earley and David Connors, where each week we'll discuss and divulge all the goings-on in Galway Hurling. We'll be taking an in-depth look at the club scene and of course focusing on intercounty, in this Shane O'Neill's first year at the helm, all of which we'll do in the company of some special guests and former Galway greats. So do come along and join us on Tribe Talk, Galway's dedicated hurling podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Tribe Talk. Patrick Earley in the seat this week, joined as usual by our resident Portumna, now Salt Hill man, Kevin Chunky. Kevin, welcome aboard again this week.
Well, Patrick, how's things? How are you getting on?
Good now. You're getting primed for another big championship game this weekend.
Junior B, it's on Sunday evening, Pádraig Pearse's big game. Very little training, but that's the way it should be at Junior B. As the lad told me the other day, Junior B shouldn't be allowed training. I said, I'm 100% with that.
For sure. And look at the draw went Beha's way in that one anyhow. There was a 1 in 5 chance for the second place teams to getting straight to a quarter final, and it went our way. So we'll take that one anyhow, you know.
Actually, look, it's just great for everyone getting a bit of hurling. Do you know what I mean? That's all it's about, really, and a bit of enjoyment. See what happens. There'll be no one breaking hurls off tables or anything anyway.
Are you enjoying being back out there?
Sure, it's grand to have a bit of crack with the lads and all that, you know, and it's not too strenuous. The enjoyment for the 3 or 4 days after the last game was zero. To be honest, I couldn't walk, but anyway, that was pretty similar to the last 3 years of the Hurling Senior as well. So, sure, look, as I say, it's, do you know what I mean? Sure, look, it's a bit of crack, nothing too serious.
Yeah, for sure. And look at this week, we're here to look back on 8 quarterfinals last weekend, 4 senior, 4 intermediate. All streamed, of course, on the Galway GA stream service, which is fantastic. And I know in senior especially, we had a fantastic weekend of action, serious standard of hurling. And to be honest, like, in my opinion, anyhow, the standard this year is better than other years. And I think it's probably a lot of it's down to the structure now, in that it's all running. You have your 2 weeks between games, 2-3 weeks a week for, I suppose, some of the teams last weekend. But you reckon, as was someone who would have been involved in an awful lot of championships before, that helped teams, that continuity?
Oh, definitely. Like, geez, the main thing for me is, well, first of all, it has been a great championship, and one of the main reasons for me is, well, a couple of reasons. One, I think that a lot of the teams are quite even, so there's very little teams getting the hammering at this stage of the competition. You know, like. Obviously, group stages are different and stuff, but come the preliminary quarterfinals, the teams are very, very evenly matched. You know, you obviously have a couple of very strong teams, but there's still anyone can win on any given day. So, like that to me is great. But back to the structure, sure, like you're playing every second week, you know when you're playing. So of course, you don't have, you're playing a match, you get a week's recovery, maybe a bit of training, match again, and the county players in as well. Like is probably the third thing really that's massive. Like, you know, every club has their best players, which is going to bring on the rest of the players, the younger lads. You know, you have the likes of Turloughmore, have their Dahi Burks and Sean Lenans, and all them lads are training with the rest of the lads, and same with Thomas's and other teams. So that's a massive bonus for me. It's probably added to the whole competition, you know.
Yeah, and I think if not only does it bring on the other fellas that wouldn't be in a county panel, but I think from looking at games, I think intra-county players are actually having their best years as well in the club scene, because it's not a case of being, you know, training with your county all along and then walking back into the club on a Thursday before a game, and then being able to go out on Saturday and hurl up a storm. Like, it's not that easy, you know. That aspect of getting to play with the lads around you at the club level, it's worth an awful lot to the county players as well.
Definitely. And to be fair, all the inter-county lads are hurling quite well. you know, there was very little. Like obviously, I wouldn't be too clued into exactly who's on the intercounty panel at the minute. But all the former intercounties, would say the lads that have been playing the last year or two, the lads that were playing in the league, geez, they've all been good now. To be fair, there's very little lads that you'd say were below standard. Like, so, you know, it's definitely helped them as well. It's great they can concentrate in their club, and you know what? Like sometimes it's probably been the whole hurling, even intercounty, some of the club, it's nearly too serious. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, but it's nice for the top intercounty player to go back into the club and be at that, you know, pretty competitive level and close to professional for a club, but not fully. Do you know what I mean? Like that, to me, it's great, and they're all going well now, especially in the knockout stages. Now you get to see a lot of them there, and Jesus, like it's great, and Jesus, it bodes well for Galway going forward if everything goes to plan and there is matches in the championship after the club championship. And there's a lot of lads that maybe aren't on the panel that you'd probably look at making the squad this year as well, that have really shown up, and the live streaming and stuff. To be fair, it's great. It's great. Like people are seeing. That's another thing. Like people probably wouldn't have seen many of the championship games over the last few, myself included. Like I wouldn't have seen them. Like you go to your own games and stuff, and you wouldn't have time to be going off watching games and stuff. Like, you know. So watching them there in the couch or whatever in the evening time, the weekend, is brilliant. Like, you know, and you can get to see all the top players there for reasonable enough as well. Like, you know.
Of course, and as well, I suppose we're only 4 or 5 days away from the resumption of intercounty training. 14th September, I think is the date. And like, to be honest, like I think those lads are going back into a county setup. Like, I suppose maybe the lads still involved in championship might be excused, or certainly will have a lighter load for a few weeks, you know. But in my opinion, from what I've seen, like lads are going to be going back into that setup in fantastic shape, and I don't see any kind of drop in standards in the intercounty championship when it gets going. You know, teams will have a month together now to, I suppose, like the physical side of things and the fitness side of things is fairly good. They're up at a high level, and it's just about getting back used to playing with one another again, you know. But I think when that resumes, and please God it will, as scheduled, I'd expect standard to be as high as ever anyhow.
Yeah, geez, the first thing on that now, I've 3 missed calls there off a number I don't know. I presume that's Shane O'Neill, but I didn't realise we were going back. I didn't realise my performances at Junior B level got me a call back. I know. Listen, they're going in massive, Nick. Like, Jesus, and that's a nice way to go in. Like, you know, to me, like going back there in November, December, January, February. I know you're training intercounty, but like, there's no player. There couldn't be many players that enjoy the thoughts of the mental slog, the physical slog. You know, so they're coming into the intercounty on the back of top quality matches, training with their club, enjoying it. You know what I mean? So, like, you'd be hoping they'll go back in. There won't be massive need for a lot of physical training. Like, they'll have to maintain like their physical body shape and small bit of running and stuff. But like, the truth being told, I think it's a great way to go in off the back of a club championship, you know. So, yeah, it should bode well.
For sure. And with that, I suppose we'll tear into the action for the weekend. We'll start off with the senior championship with a double header in Ballinasloe on Saturday and the same in Kenny Park on Sunday. First game of the weekend was St Thomas's defending county champions against Clarinbridge. 123 to 216 a finish for Thomas's. I suppose anticipated by many to be a game, a shootout in many respects, a game all about quality hurling, and we got a lot of that, to be fair. And in the end, I suppose Thomas has just proved that they just had that bit more class all over the field, that a few more threats up front than Killimordaly, and that's what kind of got them over the line. And I suppose 4 points, the final winning margin, they were probably a bit more comfortable than that too, fair to say.
Yeah, well, on the scoreline, definitely. Look, to me, Killimordaly were excellent now. But St Thomas's, like, you've got the spine of their team. To me, is like, it's the strongest spine of any of the teams in the club championship in Galway this year. And I don't think there's anyone that has it. Now, obviously, there's teams that'll be up there with them, but like, it's a Gerard Kelly in goals, very, very, very good goalie, and I seen him. I think he even got a yellow card down Ballinasloe the last day. So there's obviously a bit of boldness to him as well, but you need that in a goalie, like, you know what I mean. So he's a pair of balls, and he's not afraid to be fucking throwing it around and giving a bit of abuse. But I always say it, a good goalie will always be a bit cracked. Don't know him from Adam, but he seems very assured in the goals. Then you have Fintan Burke, to me, performance of the weekend, 100%. Like literally Pádraig Maher, JJ Delaney stuff. If he stays going that way, he'll certainly be fullback for Galway and they'll release Dahi Burke. That's my own view.
Yeah.
He was just exceptional. Shane Cooney, fierce assured in the ball, centre back. Two lads midfield, sure, like you've David Burke, James Regan. Really strong club hurlers, like obviously intercounty standard, obviously former captain of Galway. Like they're brilliant around there. Then you have Conor Cooney and Dara Burke, like both can interchange in and out as well. Like, you know, that spine it's intercounty spine, like and any club team that has that, like, you're going a long way. So to me, for Killimordaly to get within 4 points was pretty good. Like, you know, they came from Senior B. They had a great year. They've gone up to Senior A, so like they'll have to be happy. You know, they stuck with it. They never give in. They'll have a lot of learnings. Some of their better players in the preliminary quarter final probably didn't reach the same heights. But on the other side of that, other lads like Ian Ryan, there was who else? David Concannon, lads like that. They really upped it as well. Like, you know, it was their Tommy Earls as well up in the forwards. So Tommy Earls, I'm not 100%. But like they all upped it. So like it just shows to me they have a right good squad there now, to be fair, and they've a good setup. So look, they'll be quite happy. But when you go back to like even outside the spine of Thomas's, like you have Dana Burks, O'Sheen Flannery's. Oh, these lads, like they're class all over the field, to be honest. And they're going to take beating. That's it. Simple as. And look at good knowledge climber really did. It's going to take a serious team to beat that Thomas's team.
That's for sure. I think it's fair to say Clarinbridge proved that they're well able for Senior A, and I think that they'll go up and they'll make a splash up there next year. Anyhow, you know, a lot of really impressive stuff about what they did the last day. They played into the wind in the first half, and I suppose in Ballinasloe they were playing up the bit of a hill as well, from the town end up, and to be fair, you know, Brian Concannon struck over the first point, and then Thomas has reeled off 5 in a row in no time at all, and you fear for them early on. Like, God almighty, these lads are flying it, and are Clarinbridge going to be able to cope at all? But they stuck with them right up to half time. They were 10-6 down, were in a good spot, and then conceded the last 3 before half time. And Brian Burke, he missed a couple of frees as well. One of them struck wide, and the other one he just didn't. I suppose he was playing into the wind. He was trying to drive it under the wind and just got it a small bit low, and it didn't carry over, and got cut out before it reached there. So, you know, had they kept it that 4-point gap by half time, and even after the break, they started very well and got it back to 14-10. You know, they were in a good spot at that point. But in saying that, when Thomas has had that bit of momentum going against them, they go back down the field and they hit 1-2, and O'Sheen Flannery got in for the goal, and that was kind of making it 116 to 11 points there. That was probably the key passage in the game, really, in that, you know, it quelled the bit of momentum Clarinbridge after building up and left them with a mountain to climb again.
Yeah, sure. Listen, as I said, like, even in fairness to Clarinbridge, they never ever gave up, which is a great sign. Jack Fitzpatrick now was one of his better games of the few I've seen now. He really stood out to be a lad that, you know, I'd heard great things about him. I hadn't really seen it, but the last year, like up against top quality players, he was excellent as well, and he drove it on. And in fairness, they did, like, they never give up. And like as you said, they were always, you know, if they got another goal, like there were, you know, 4 points at the end. It's nothing in a game of hurling, like. So to be fair, they can, as I said, they can hold their heads up now and they can drive on and learn from it, you know. And there's lots of things they can learn from it as well, and they've plenty of players on it, to be fair to them.
Yeah, and we talked about in the preview, about, you know, the Brian Concannons, the Brian Burkes, the Paul Cravens, they all needed to fire at full tilt. I know Brian Concannon had a deep enough role, especially in the first half when they were playing into the wind. He kind of had a mid roller out around the middle, you know. But certainly, in fairness, Fintan totally shut down Brian Burke until kind of the last 10 minutes or so. and that was a big part to kind of, I suppose, eliminating Clarinbridge's threat in many ways.
Yeah, well, on that, I'm not sure they ever move. I could be wrong now. You were at the game. I don't know. Did they move Brian Burke off Finton at any stage, or definitely not early anyway? But like,
yeah,
Finton Burke came out. I think he could have won 5 or 6 frees where he burst out with the ball, got caught around the neck, free out. Like they're massive frees. Like, and to be fair, like I've known myself, you're playing full forward or even centre forward, and the centre back or full back is he starts to dominate you. Jesus. Either move yourself or like honestly, you see they all kind of move like, and I just felt like maybe they wanted him in there because he's a big strong lad to try and stop maybe Finton Burke hurling. But to me, I would have nearly been looking along the lines and maybe put Brian Concannon in there and try and feed the ball in low. Now, to be honest, the way Finton Burke was hurling, he's going to deal with whatever came his way. But yeah, just maybe just small things like that. But like the game management for me from Thomas's was just top notch. Like, geez, for a club team, like it's unbelievable. Like they just don't do panic, and they're flicking balls around the place there and small. Like Ballinasloe is a lot tighter than Peter Stadium or Athenry. Like, and it's hard to hurl there at times. Like it's very bunched, and geez, they made it look big at times. Like the players all over the place. Their use of the ball was phenomenal, to be honest. And what I really liked about their forward line was they recycled the ball in the full forward line, brilliant. Like
yeah.
Geez, the corner forwards were getting it. They weren't doing crazy stuff in the corners. They let it back out the field. They're Conor Cooney's, Aina Burks, and they were just popping pints. Let it back out, David Burke popping pints. So they're a top club team now at the minute. Obviously, after winning 2 county finals, it's no it's no surprise. Like, but Jesus, they really are strong. Like.
And another thing that really impressed me was you talk about the way they were throwing the ball around. But they're not afraid to change it up and to go direct as well, which for a batsman or for an opposition, if you're preparing for a team that are going to play short ball, grand. If you're playing for a team that are playing long ball, grand. You can prepare for that. But when you're playing a team that can do it all to such a high level, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, listen, to be honest with you, the quicker the ball, like if there's a team, if you're not playing a sweeper, you're not playing deep, and the ball goes into them lads in that full forward line, like they have the stick work. They're well able to play both. They're able to play it short. They're able to play it long. And I tell you one thing, they're able to mix it too. It got rough and heavy there at times, and Killimordaly stuck into them. But they didn't stand back like and. Truth being told, even David Burke, like, geez, was a stage there. I think the ball was thrown in. And I was kind of holding my head going, if he pulls here, he's gone. Like, he was after getting the yellow, and he pulled and he survived. I'd say only it was half time. Like, he was probably a bit lucky. But no, I don't even know if he connected with your man. But like, it was getting hot and heavy. But by geez, they're well able to look after themselves, and they're able to mix it. And they always were. Now, to be fair to them, they always were, and they have a bit of everything. So like. You're not going to just go out and bully them either, which is another weapon to have.
That's for sure. I got fairly revved there for about 5 minutes just before half time. I think to be honest, Paul Fahey sounded the whistle a fraction early for half time, and thank God he did before something did happen. But it just kick-started from a little flick, and David Burke's coming out with the ball, and Ian Ryan caught him and the helmet flick of the hurl, and went down, got his yellow. And then from there on, it was just a lot of off the ball stuff, a lot of on the ball stuff, and I think for all the players' sakes, anyhow, it was a blessing that the halftime whistle did come, because when they came back out, it was all straight back to hurling. In fairness, and that's what most of the game was about. It was a real quality game of hurling.
Sure. Listen,
it's an awful lot of quality scores on show, like by both teams.
Quarter-final, it's knockout. You know what I mean? There's no one going to be standing back. And to be honest with you, there was probably nearly a lack of it in a lot of games this year. Where the hurling was good. Like, there wasn't an awful lot of timber flying, and like, look, when it comes to knockout and you have an underdog, they're going to start throwing it out there. And look, that's what you expect. But in fairness, the way to deal with it now, they're strong. They're strong.
That's for sure. They'll take Stockman, and of course their opposition now in the county semi-final is Cappataggle. Cappy reached their 4th county semi-final in a row. They beat Askfohan, a local derby there, 20 points to 13. Second game in Ballinasloe on Saturday evening. Probably in terms of standard, maybe not the best game of the weekend, with plenty of entertainment in it. And I suppose after the first half had gone so well for Ascrowan, they led 11-8 at half time and 12-8 just after half time. They got the first point of the half. It just kind of Cappy took over really, and it's hard to gauge. Was it a case of Cappy taking over, or Haskell just kind of just collapsing to some degree? 10 points in a row Cappataggle scored from 12-8 down to go 18-12 up, and that was kind of the game really in that 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, well, first of all, what a year for Haskell for me. Like, you know, fair play to them. It was a series. They're up Senior A, the top of their group. They had nothing to lose in that game. Yeah. But they went out and they kind of hurled Cappataggle nearly off the field there at one stage, coming towards in the first half. And as you said, it started off and it's like everything stopped. But I don't know what kind of an injury Pádraig Mannion had, but he certainly seemed to hurt his knee when he sold it in at one stage. I think it was his knee and his right. It looked like he was hobbling with his right knee. And then they started to get to grips with maybe Cathal Mannion and probably a couple of weeks. And it's been a real high for them the last couple of weeks. And Cappataggle just stuck to the game plan and they play really deep and they got their control game now because they were poor now early in the year against Loughrea, but they really have their own game back intact and they stuck to the game plan and it seemed to work for them. They created space for the lads inside and they got the scores. And I suppose once that went that bit ahead, Ascafona were always struggling, like with Pádraig injured, and they were trying to bring up what's his name, and centre back.
Lane.
Sorry, Lane. They were trying to bring him up then as well, and you knew they were going to be a little under pressure, and but they're a fine side like Ascafona, and you know what?
Sure.
Like a lot of people were kind of wondering, like, will they survive Senior A? Like from what I saw the last day, they play the ball quite well, and they will. Like if the young lads coming, like numbers probably wouldn't be massive out there either, but they'll be confident enough and they'll regroup. And look at it, you've got Blaheen and the two Mannions and the Kellys and lads like that. Jeez, they have a strong side, and they definitely won't be out of place to me in Senior A anyway.
That's for sure. And like the thing is, they'll take an awful lot of learnings from that game too. Like in Cappataggle, they're playing one of the most seasoned and experienced championship teams that's going at the minute, And like the reality was, when Cappataggle got that 6 points up, they weren't going to let it slip the way Crowell did the week before, Even though they conceded a couple of chances later on. Nolly Ward had batted an effort from a free that came in just wide, and James Skehill to make a great save from Blaheen as well. In fairness, but like overall, I suppose the key for Cappy in turning the screw was, I suppose, taking over in their own half-back line, that sector of the field, because an awful lot of the good stuff Ascafona had done in the first half had come from that half-hour line. Like Ronan Kelly he was a man possessed in the first half. He was absolutely outstanding under high ball, and he got two cracking points, and Mark Kelly, and then the way they were linking up with Cahill in behind, some of the stuff they were together in the first half was brilliant.
It's amazing, like, to see Cahill back so far, like, but he actually, in fairness, like, he suits the role. He has the skill levels, and he's just his eye for picking out the passes, and it's just phenomenal. It's a pity though Pádraig got injured, because he knew he was injured, like, and it's a pity because they were in the game, like, and it probably would have been a little closer, but there was a breeze in Ballinasloe now as well. It looked that way anyway from watching a nice breeze, and so where people might have thought they kind of took the foot off the pedal, it's tough enough when a team gets a run you and there's a breeze, they can start picking off points from out around the middle of the field and stuff, and it gets a little disheartening. You're trying to work the ball up, and then you've had trying to take shots from where places they shouldn't, and it's a bit difficult for them, but no more than Killimordaly. They're a brilliant year and they've lots to work on. And look at, if you told Ascafona you're going to be whatever the word 3 or 4 points up starting the second half of the county quarter final, like, they'd have taken your arm off, and you're going to play Senior A next year, like. So to me, they'll be disappointed because they definitely gave themselves a great chance. But they played well. They've lots to work on, and as you said, Cappataggle have been in county semi-finals, so they're season campaigners. So it's nothing to be disheartening about,
For sure, and as well, a word on Cappy, they're through through the county semi-final, and they don't have the sight of Liam Mellows ahead of them, which is psychologically it's a help going into it straight away. I suppose it doesn't help now that it's St. Thomas's to have, which
No.
Certainly not a step down anyhow, that's for sure. But to be fair, they struggled in the first half, but I thought they remained very patient the whole time. They were being beaten in a lot of sectors, but I suppose they stuck to the plan. The Damien Joyce was named wing forward, but it was more of a wing back than Anthony. They stuck with that.
Now, you would have seen it a bit more than me, but you know what?
Yeah.
I seen him with the hurl up a good few times. He was wearing 6, and he was in acres of space. So the truth being told, they probably didn't use him enough.
Yeah.
In the first half, if you watch, I only watch it on the stream now, but I was you could see it. He seemed to be, the stream was that side of the field, the stand side, and he seemed to be in acres of space there. How he picked up ball, but so you can see him. He's pointing. I said it earlier on in the year, he gets a nice structure to their team. They know what they're at. To be fair to them,
they do.
So they have a plan. They stick to the plan. They never panic. To me now, to be fair, I know they were down, but they didn't seem to panic at all. They seemed to be hurling within themselves that they knew that they were going to get over the line. It wasn't going to be too pretty, but they got over the line, and look, they're in the semi-final again, and the Thomases and good knowledge we're talking about Thomases, and it can happen on any given day. You know yourself, you've seen it plenty of times. So look, they're there now, and they'll give it a lash, and they've not to lose.
Yeah, and they isolated Paddy Egan as the free man for them in defence in the second half. And fair, Paddy Egan, he's a great ball player, and Hask Fona, I suppose, in ways they made a hero out of him a bit. They landed an awful lot of ball down on top of him, without being able to bypass into their inside line. I suppose when you've lost, Pádraig wasn't able to wield the same influence in there as well. Even when the ball was going in, it was coming back out. But he picked out some fantastic ball.
And in fairness now to Pádraig, I thought he was injured. I don't know how bad he was. He still did all right now. To be fair, he was doing all right. Yeah. And he still picked off a couple of scores, and he was causing damage. But you just knew, you knew he wasn't 100%. But back to your man, Paddy, I'd say he was icing his hands on Monday from all the balls he was hitting, because they really didn't. That message needed to go out fairly soon and quick. That he was picking up ball after ball,
Yeah. And I suppose when those boys were getting on ball and getting their heads up, it meant in turn they were able to hit serious ball into the boys inside. And if Jem Mannion is getting good ball, there's not a cornerback in the county that can do a whole pile about him. When he's blessed with that sort of pace, he had an outstanding second half, and Alan Dolan too had a great game throughout.
Alan, I had 3 of them on the full forward line. The other Mannion as well, in fairness, and the only, if you were to have any, for me, if you were to have any fault with them, maybe they didn't use the ball. I know they're the shooters, especially the 2 Mannions, but maybe they probably shot a couple of times. They could have recycled the ball, and that's the one thing going into play. St. Thomas's now are in a stage where if Oisin Flannery has a ball and it's not on, he'll recycle it back out to Corker. Do you know what I mean? They throw it around in the full forward line. The 2 lads, whether it was the support coming in, but it was tight, especially I think Ja went in at one stage there. He should have thrown out the hand pass. Now it was near the end, but that kind of stuff, they do it. Thomases do it. They give the ball to the better man in the position and they finish it. They're ruthless. That's what they do. They don't care who scores. So where they might be using, Cappy might be using the lads as their shooters or whatever, you still need to give the ball. So if it's not on, you need to give. Now Ja got probably 4 or 5 points. The other brother, Donald, probably picked off 2 or 3 as well, so they're getting the score. But you're playing St. Thomas's the next day. I can guarantee you, if you get 10 chances, you probably need to score 8. That means throwing out the ball to the better man. To me, you need to do it. So that's only a small criticism. Other than that, it is, to create that space is very, very hard, and they were able to do that. So they got a lot of things right for me, and they played it at their own game plan.
That's for sure. So that wraps up Saturday's action in senior. Anyhow, we move on to Sunday, and of course we have the two brilliant games. The 2 games the weekend, to be fair, in Athenry on Sunday. There were 2 fantastic games, and brilliant pace and intensity to both. And I suppose we'll start off with Loughrea, what a display, knocking out the 2017 county champions Liam Mellows 22 points to 113. And to be fair, like there was nothing, there wasn't a case of the scoreline flattering Loughrea here or anything. Like they were 6 points the better team and probably a bit more. There was never a time where you thought Mellows are coming back here. That's how good Loughrea were. They never afforded Mellows even a 5-minute purple patch. They really were truly outstanding, I thought.
I agree with everything you said there. You hit the full nail on the head. Everything. There were more than, was it 6 points in it for a finish?
6, yeah.
They were probably on the day, they were 10, 12 points better. To me, like as the game itself, was it a cracking game for me? Probably not. You'd have to be awfully impressed with Loughrea, but
yeah,
geez, on the other side of it, like Mellows must be kicking themselves. Like, geez, I know you can make up excuses for 3 games on the trot and this, and that's true when the Loughrea came in as a fresh team and all that, but Liam Mellows were dreadful.
Yeah.
Full stop. They were dreadful the last day. They're half forward line. It didn't function at all. That was their main base. Like Loughrea, absolutely. To me, Loughrea bullied them. Like, and I was telling you here last week or whatever, and I said probably struggle to see Loughrea coping with the physicality of Mellows. And I was surprised. Like I knew it was going to be close. To be honest, I knew there'd be very little in it because I thought Loughrea might play maybe a more expansive game, but they didn't. They did the opposite.
Yeah.
They played Mellows at their own game and they literally bullied them around the field. Yeah. Mellows just looked stuck to the ground. Now it's happened. I've been involved myself at times where you should be better than you are, and the whole team kind of seems to be stuck to the ground and nothing's not going right. You just can't get going at all. But credit to Loughrea, Jesus, they're pulling players out of the hat out there. Like, there's young lads out there now and they're a very strong team. I think they've been in 17 of the last 18 quarterfinals, which is phenomenal. Like, for a team that were in a lot of county finals and no more than Portumna, we played them a lot, and all that team kind of just went, but they still never went anywhere. Loughrea, they stayed breathing lads through the team and good lads and great stick hurlers, but they still have that Loughrea in them. They're well able if they can drive it in. And I tell you one thing, Mellows should have been expecting it. Maybe they weren't, they just weren't able. But like I'd say, if 2 or 3 of the Mellows lads won their battles, that's it. Because Loughrea all over the field bullied them and hurled them. So be very disappointing. But look, credit has to go to the management of Loughrea as well, because they seem to get all their matchups right. I see they even played Tom Hooban there on the wing, like, and it was obvious from the start. They said, right, we're not going to let Sean Morrissey dominate out in the wing, like, They just like, he didn't start the last few games, so they had a plan in place and the plan worked. So look, they're through now, and they were full credit for the win, as I say. Like, to be fair, Tyke Harden's goal probably papered over a lot of the cracks, like, like, really and truly, they were nowhere near Loughrea, like, and they never looked like getting near them. But and in fairness to Tyke now, like, he was one of their better lads. I know he mightn't have did an awful lot in the scoreboard. Jesus, a couple of minutes later, he was back making a hook for a goal at Loughrea, like, so, like, geez, he was good and he worked on the ground. And the corner forward, Conor Hines, to me was
brilliant.
Was excellent. Like, he gave Cayman Killeen a good run around now. And to me, one of the other players the weekend was Stephen Barrett, who was outstanding. He reminds me of Cathal Barrett from Tipperary. But by God, can he hurl? He doesn't say much or do. He just goes about his business. And he could hold his head up after the last. He could do no more. He was coming out with ball after ball from the cornerback position, and he actually, I think the what's his name from Loughrea, the corner forward, he was pulled ashore, like, and he'd been brilliant in a couple of games. Anthony Burns, he 2-6 or 2-7 the last couple of games, and Barrett had him on the sideline after 20-25 minutes. So other than that, Liam Mellows, I don't know, the rest of them they'll be gutted, because, like, myself included, and I said it here and I said it to lads, I thought they were the one team that seemed to be getting a little better and better, and bang, just came out of nowhere. They were very disappointing. But on the other hand, Loughrea were, as I said, the thing about Loughrea to me was just the way they went about their business was just I wouldn't have seen a lot of Loughrea over the last few years either, to be honest. So, but
Yeah.
that was the first real look I had at them, and I have to say, I was impressed with them against Cappataggle. But it was down in balance low. You couldn't really see an awful lot of their style and flair, but they have it in plentiful all over the park.
Yeah, but even that day against Cappy, like there wasn't this same hunger or physical edge they brought to it, like, you know, and that's playing your near neighbours there, you know. We had seen how good a hurlers they were, but like I thought, like people have said to me, all right, the third week caught Mellows. I don't buy that, you know. I think if you look at Sarsfields against Turlough, Sarsfields were outstanding for half an hour and every bit as good, if not better than Turlough. But then I thought Sarsfields hit the wall, whereas for Mellows there was never a spell where they were operating at that level. You know, I just thought they weren't able. Like you think back to the Gort game, the quality of ball they were hitting inside. We talked about the space Gort left in their for their full back line, but the quality of ball then in turn Mellows written inside to the Cabinets and the Angus Callans and the Conor Hineses. Whereas you think back to the last day, all they were doing was competing for 50-50 balls, because that's all they were able to get into them. They were under so much pressure around the middle third when striking the ball in, and that's all down to Loughrea, like.
Yeah, even the space they afforded some of the Loughrea players was outrageous. Like, you know, Emmett Mahoney there, and there was Sweeney when he came on, and Paul Hooban at times. Like, geez, they were on the ball at stages, and there was no one within 20 yards. It just looked like they couldn't get off the mark. I don't know. There must have been, I don't know whether it was a training or since the last match. They really looked stuck on their feet now from what I was watching. But yeah, you wouldn't be blaming 3 weeks in a row, but I don't know what they were doing, or it just looked stuck to the ground. And when you meet a team as hungry as that, you cannot be like that. Like, you know, you need to be the opposite. Like, you need to be meeting fire with fire. But like, to me, after 10 minutes, that game was over. Like, you just couldn't see Mellows pulling through. Like, you were kind of going, yeah, maybe, but Loughrea were in cruise control, to be honest, to me.
Yeah, and like we spoke during the week as well, and a lot of the reason why we both chose Liam Mellows as our favourite last week was because Jamie Ryan was going to be unavailable, and so it proved. You know, he lodged his appeal, but it was turned down. But in his absence, you know, Martin McManus stood up. Neil Keary, I thought he had his best game that I've seen for a number of years. Anyhow, I thought they were both outstanding. They pushed Joe Mooney up from midfield up to full forward to offer another dimension up there. You know, a big physical presence. Plenty to hurling about him. He scored 2 points. McManus got 5. Emmett Mahoney got 2. Neil Keary, I can't remember what he finished. 8, 5 frees, 3 from play. You know, that's an outstanding return, and that's players, I suppose, standing up in their marquee forward's absence. You know.
Yeah, and listen, like, McManus to me was just brilliant. Like, you know, he was winning balls, scoring, and he was bouncing around the place. I hadn't seen a lot of him in the championship, but he's obviously only a young lad. But even in the backs, and Colleen was having all sorts of problems on Conor Hines, like. But they just shipped him out of there. They had no choice because your man was doing so much damage. But didn't they, I don't know where they put him. Was it out wing back or midfield? But wherever he went, he banged over 2 points from what I remember as well. Like, you know, so it's a great sign of a player as well. Like, you know, you're not going great in there, but the lad used to say, like, you know, you need to change something if it's not going well. Like, change your attitude. Jesus, he changed his attitude, and he just joined in with the rest of them. Like, to be fair, you'd have to admire them. They just hounded Liam Mellows, and I'd say now to be at it, I'd say there was plenty of off the ball stuff as well. Like, to be honest, I'd say there was plenty pulling and dragging, but fair play to them. But as I say, Mellows to me were just fierce disappointing.
Yeah, and you could sense, like, really right from the throw in, that Loughrea were up and at it. Their communication on the field, especially when the crowd isn't there, you can really hear it so much better, you know.
Yeah.
And you could hear that all the Loughrea lads, you could hear the subs and the few lads they had in the stand. Johnny Maher managed to get one of their tickets in, and he wasn't too far away from us in the stand.
Jeez, you'd be bringing Johnny in anyway, definitely, wouldn't you? Just in case the row would break, anyway, if nothing else. Or, do you know what? I don't know if he was talking, but geez, we some man to train full forward. It did need a goal.
That's for sure. But I thought like verbally and in terms of their communication, they were way ahead of Mellows.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder,
and they're
you'd wonder, like, did Mellows take them for granted?
is there an
I,
element, and it
I
doesn't.
don't know, like, because I know
Yeah,
the week, like, speaking to lads around Galway, like, the only ones that were giving Loughrea a chance to me was a few lads I knew from Loughrea, like, like,
yeah,
and they knew that as well, like, to be honest, from talking to some, they were kind of like, yeah, no one gives us a chance, but I'm telling you, we'll be all right, like, and I
yeah,
only met a
yeah,
Loughrea man up in Salt Hill, actually cousin of Johnny Maher's, or he could even be an uncle, I'm not sure, but geez, he was adamant, like, he says, oh, jeez, we'll definitely beat these guys, oh, they're fired up, and I was kind of
yeah,
going, not too sure now without Jamie
yeah, yeah.
Ryan, but Jesus, when I see him again, I'll have to put the head down anyway. But no, I wasn't adamant now that Mellows would win, but just on form to me,
Yeah,
it looked like in physicality and the way Mellows were going about their business, and Loughrea without Jamie Ryan and Brian Mahoney as well, like, who to me would have been a loss because Loughrea, you need everyone, and Brian Mahoney be on their top 20 hurlers, like, so of course you'd be a loss, like. But Jesus, no, yeah. I was laughing watching it. I was saying, Jesus, I tell you that there's some boys, because, like, a lot of people didn't fancy them, but they backed themselves, and fair play to them. And they'll back themselves. I can guarantee you one thing: a few lads I was talking to, they will back themselves against Turloughmore, and that is for sure.
That's a fact, yeah. And like, even you have a complacency there. It doesn't even have to be taking Loughrea totally for granted. If you're going in and your head is 5% off where it needs to be, that's worth an awful lot when it comes to the heat of championship like that in a game like that, So maybe that was the case for a few of
Listen,
those lads. And
I played in games myself where you might have played a quarter final and you scored maybe 3 or 4 points, and it's kind of like, geez, not so bad. No, things are going my way. But like the opposition you be on, like the lad that's picking you up is probably going, this lad got 3 points the last day. He ain't getting 3 points today. So however you got it the last day, you're going to have to improve nearly another 60% to try and even come close to that. Because of the lad you're on, they're going to know, like, this lad was on his game. So, like, you have a couple of lads there, the last day from Mellows, that probably were picking off 4 and 5 pints and stuff. And, like, they might have been going into it going, things are going well here now, and, I just need to keep it going. But the truth be told, that wasn't the case. They needed to up it again, and they didn't up it, or they weren't able. I don't know what, but it didn't look the Mellows of the couple of weeks before. And they're out of the championship now, and that's it. It's Loughrea and Mellows are out, and they can talk about it. I know there was lads giving out about the referee now as well. You were at it, but there was mostly Mellows lads giving out about it. I think the Loughrea lads were quite happy with him, and they were looking to the next game as well. But anyway,
yeah. No, I thought, in fairness, there was serious physicality brought to the game, and I thought Mellows came out the wrong side on a few goals, especially the first half. In terms of just not being awarded frees that were frees.
Yeah, there was. Look, to be fair, there was certainly 1 or 2 I saw myself now, and it was kind of going, probably could have got a free for that. Like, I'm only watching on the couch, so I can only imagine if you've the green and Mellows on or whatever, I'm sure you'd be a little more grieved, like.
Yeah, for sure. And like it wasn't worth the 6 points that they lost, but certainly in the first half, like there's no, and no one is saying that either. In fairness,
no. And to be honest with you, the lad that said it to me, the first thing he said it in the same sentence. He said, "Listen, Liam Mellows, they were never going to win the game. It didn't matter who refed it. Like, they were that was it. They were outclassed all over the field."
Yeah. No, but Loughrea brought that physicality that we hadn't seen from this Loughrea team. We've seen it from Loughrea teams in the past. You certainly felt it, I'm sure, on a few Monday mornings.
On the back of the head, yeah.
Before the days of the good old helmets.
Yeah, well, the helmets only came in 2010, so
yeah.
Our bad Loughrea were pre-helmet time, which was on too bad because like Dave McLaren didn't wear a helmet either, so we used to both pull together and to be all grand. With plenty of lads stitches up on the sideline anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose now that they've won that, confidence is going to be sky high going into a county semi-final. Somewhere they haven't been. I don't know when was the last time they were in a semi-final, to be honest, but it's a few years anyhow. up against now Turloughmore. And I tell you, what a contest we could have on our hands here. Turloughmore beating Sarsfields the weekend, 225 to 219. The first of that game was probably the best half hurling I've seen in the Galway Club Championship in an awful long time. Anyhow, I don't know what you think, but that's what I thought. Anyhow.
Yeah. Listen, Jesus, it was lively. It was lively. Yeah. And do you know what? I was actually talking to Alan Kelly, who was reffing it, and in fairness to him, he did a great job. He was actually probably.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I was slagging him the last day. He says, I give you ref of the weekend. I said to him, but I also followed it up by it wouldn't be too hard to win that award either. But anyway, I'm only joking. Well, no, I did say that. But anyway, no, he said, like, to be fair, he said it was an easy game to ref. He said, like, it was, you know, they just went out and went at it full on hurling, and wasn't need to be blowing the whistle, and it really showed in the first half. Like, some of the scores, and to be fair, Sarsfields were involved in some of the better scores as well. Like, it was just tit for tat, and I was a bit surprised, not overly surprised, but I thought Sarsfields really brought a great edge to it as well. Like, and they got like some massive scores, but Turlough went for the juggler a couple of times in the first half, and Jesus, boy, did it pay off! Like, you know, it kept them right in the game, and they were able to push on then. But they have a serious side as well. Like, you know, they're joining the other lads now. And to be fair, they're probably, you couldn't argue with any of the four teams that are in the semi-finals. To be honest, like, and I'm nearly glad. Obviously, Mellows will see themselves as they could have been there, but outside that, I don't think you'd be disappointed that any of the teams are there. Like, you're getting the best of the best is there now, and it's going to be lined up for a cracking semi-final weekend. To be fair,
that's for sure. That's true. I'm true. From my eyes, like, I actually thought Sarsfields were the better team for most of that first half. You know, they hadn't conceded a goal all championship. They conceded 2 in the space of the first 5 or 6 minutes of this game. You know. And like you thought, like, looking at it, you're like, geez, Turlough are absolutely lethal here. We know there was some question marks over what have they beaten so far. You know, they beat Mellows in the first round. So I don't know, could you ever read a whole pile into the first round, especially of this year's championship? Then they went out and beat Northmore Mary team that didn't show up, and then they lost to a Clarinbridge team that are already relegated. So there were some questions to be answered for sure, you know. But my God, the way they started off the game like an absolute train was certainly awfully impressive. But in saying that, then Sarsfields to come back and reel them in and go ahead with just points, I thought it was awful impressive. And I thought, you know, Turlough were in a bit of bother as well, in fairness, for much of the first half.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, and the final score 219 they conceded, like, Turlough. So, like, it's Loughrea will have the stats man out, and he'll be carving it down where the space was created. But you have to hand it to Sarsfields there as well. Like, you know, Sarsfields has got some great scores. One of the big things for me was Kevin Cooney is super first half. And once again, you were probably at the game. He looked to be unbelievable out midfield. Now, I don't know, was he carrying an injury or what, but he seemed to go in full forward, and it didn't make sense to me. Even if they maybe made the middle decision and put him as a Roman centre forward or something, but I think they lost a bit by taking him out of midfield. Like, he got a couple of absolutely unbelievable scores for the out there as well. Like,
yeah, they certainly changed their shape as the half wore on. I suppose when Turlough started the second half so well too, they had the first 4 points and they put daylight between them straight away. And I know Sarsfields came back with the penalty, which in fairness Kevin Cooney buried as well. But they didn't kick on from there, and you could see they were struggling to keep up with Turlough. So I think, in fairness, it was a case of trying to switch things up to get a bit of freshness back into the team, and because the way things were going, the way Turlough had their heads up, you know, they were hurling well, and they were obviously fresher. Like, there was no.
Yeah, listen, Turloughmore, like, Turloughmore, a better team. Full stop. You know, there's no doubt in that, but you just don't know how games are going championship. But on paper, like, Turloughmore have intercounty players all over the field. Like, you know, Sarsfields still have a young lad, 16, or not 16, 17, maybe 18 years of age. Like, so they're still developing and stuff. Like, but Turloughmore are at a stage now where it's now, like, time is now, and they're probably a little bit more forward in their development. So, like, to me, Turlough are better. So it wasn't a massive surprise they won. Like, I was, you know. So I was I was very, I'd be, if you're over them, like, you'd be very happy the way they went about their business. Like, Dahi Burke could have pinned over a point or two in the first half, but they just spotted the player in the better position once again. I spoke about and went for the juggler, like, and I think it was Conor Walsh came in the second time and he gave it to Loftus. Like, these are lads now that they're trying to make the Galway team and stuff. Like, could easily be popping over. I spoke with the last who pop over a couple of pints and, I got 3 points the last day. Like, the management will be looking at me. No, they gave the ball into the better man and bang, goal. Like, and goals were a killer for Sarsfields, as you say. It was a bit of a shock to them, like, because they hadn't conceded a goal all championship. So two in the back of the net was going to be a killer. But yeah, Turlough are beginning to up the ante now. So it'll be look, as I said there, 2 cracking semi-finals.
That's for sure, yeah. And I suppose you compare the styles of teams, something that I was really impressed with. We talked about Thomas's short ball and their ability to make stuff down with the long ball. What I was really impressed with Turlough was actually their hand passing game and their running game. The amount of scores they created from a lad, let's say a half hour winning the ball, literally just winning the ball and then putting the head up and popping a pass to a midfielder coming through, especially early on, the likes of Sean Lina and the Sean Loftuses, these fellas, they created an awful lot of scores from it and they got on a lot of ball from it. I thought it's very hard. It's almost unmarkable, because if you're the lad, that runner coming from midfield, you're always going to have to step in your man, no matter what. With the best will in the world, you're the one that decides you're going. It's up to him to react to you going. So you have that step, and you're going at full tilt, taking the ball at full tilt. It's hard to stop it. I thought that it worked very impressively for them. That, and I suppose a dominant half back line is worth an awful lot too. And in Daniel Loftus, Jamie Holland, and Kevin Hussey, they certainly have that. And that in the second half, that was the key launch pad for an awful lot of the good stuff they did.
Yeah, and look, I'd mentioned Dahi a few times, like, but Jesus, like, he's been to me. He's like he plays football midfield, I suppose, but he's playing that role, like, he's just up and down, up and down. He actually picked off a couple of points. The truth being told, he could probably pick off more points if he wanted, but he doesn't bother him. It's like, if the option is inside and there's a man in space, he just taps it in. That's it. There was probably a little need for them to get a couple of scores. He took the couple of scores for them. He's a real leader now for them, and real big player now midfield. Like, he links the whole play to me, and he's vital. And back to the whole Fintan Burke thing. Like, if Fintan Burke slots in full back for Galway, like, geez, wouldn't it be great to have someone like Dahi Burke out, even centre back? If you had to put him midfield, even better again. Like, geez, it'd be brilliant to see him out there, because, like, people don't realise that people be following Galway, watching Dahi playing full back and just murdering lads, and not letting the likes of John Conlon with blocking and hooking and catching and just passing. But, like, his array of skills are way more than that. Like, his hurling brain to me is up there with an awful lot. He just the way he goes about his business and his vision, and he just does it, and no one even passes remarks. But to me, he, like lads saying, Dahi's going well midfield. Dahi is going unbelievable midfield, and they're playing Loughrea, and I'm not sure who's going to pick him up from Loughrea, but he's vital now to Turloughmore. Like, and I know there are plenty of other lads around him, but, like, even every ruck that's there, like, he just goes in low and he seems to come out with it. It's just a little pop pass. You don't even know he has the ball because it's gone straight away. It gets it bang back to the likes of Jamie Holland, and these lads. They're all good stickmen as well. So they're a well drilled side. Back to what you're saying, the running game. Geez, you're like, you can pick up a lad once, twice, 3 times, but new lads coming, different lads coming. Like, even their half back line there come up to you. Daniel Loftus, Jamie Holland, the midfielders. Fergal probably sits back a bit more, but the Sean Loftuses and Conor Walsh and Sean and Ann picked off. How many points did he pick off?
7 from
play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, 7 from playing a county quarter final in a tough Sarsfields defence. Like, so they're well primed coming into this game. Like, and as I said, there's only so many times you can stop a lad running in, but when you've had different lads coming at you the whole time, it's very difficult. And look at, they're a well drilled side. They're good management, but they have the players. Like, it's all at the end of the day, you need the players. Like, there's only so many. You can get Brian Cody and the rest up to teams, but it's not going to make a difference if you don't have the players. And to me, Turloughmore have the players, and now is the time, though. And they're doing it, to be fair, now they're doing it. I questioned them a bit last week over the whole Clarinbridge result, and to be fair, it's the way I was watching the first half, and I was saying, Jesus, Sarsfields are in this game, but when they got it into control, they were kind of played within themselves to me, Turloughmore, and they're going to be a hard side to stop now, to be fair.
For sure. And just before we move on to the intermediate, quick word on the senior relegation over the weekend. Kinvara picked up their first senior win for probably 6-7 years, I'd say, since 2014 maybe. They beat Killimordaly from 116 to 114, so that'll be worth an awful lot to Kinvara. Good win by all accounts in Loughrea, led from virtually from pillar to post. Killimordaly from lost Brian Malloy injury at half time, which obviously it's going to take away a lot from their attack. But chatting to Gordon Doan from Galway Bay, a lot of lads, looking at that result, they say, sure, Whelan must have scored 110 or 112. That wasn't the case. He said by his own standards, Conor Whelan hadn't a great game. A lot of lads outside him hurled very well. Tom O'Donovan got the goal. Niall Birmingham with 3 points from midfield. He's a right good hurler. David Burke as well, wing forward. He was very impressive by all accounts. And Shane Kavanagh back at 6 and Alan Leach back at fullback. Seem to be short things up there a bit for them as well. So it gives them a lot of confidence going into the game this Saturday. Ourselves and Kinvara playing in the third game of the group in Athenry Saturday at 2:00. Just one or two things to clear up or to not clear up about the structure of this relegation. There's question marks, and at the time we're recording here, which is Wednesday night, we're not 100% sure on exactly what happens. Whether or not to be honest,
whether or not to play a match, win a match, draw a match.
I'm playing in the match, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on. But my own initial understanding was that if we lost this weekend, we were going to be relegated. Having lost both our games, Kinvara would be, of course, assuming that they would have beaten us this weekend, they'd be top of the group on 4. Killimordaly would have 2 points, we'd have none. But since then, I suppose we're now hearing that apparently there's going to be a final no matter what the result this weekend. So of course there'll be more games to come maybe, but we'll see. We'll clarify on the page as soon as we hear exactly.
Does anybody have any idea when you might find out? It'd be great now if you found out before you played,
Probably useful, alright,
So yeah.
I
would have presumed myself that, like, from talking about it before, I would have presumed the team with the best scoring, if you go and win the game the next day, I presume the team with the top scoring difference will top the group, and the bottom 2 teams will play again. Would that be right?
That's happening no matter what. Yeah. If we
win, but if you go out and lose
teams,
after losing 2 games, you've been rewarded with a final.
I don't know.
But you don't know who you're playing. You should look and listen. You have another 2 days to find out. You'll be all right.
Exactly. Yeah. We won't panic yet anyhow.
Yeah, you should look at it is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. Look at you. You have a match to play Saturday. No one ever goes out to lose a match anyway, so that'll be that.
Yeah, sure. Like the match Saturday is still massive. Like, as we go win by 7 or 8 points, you'll top the group and you'll be safe as houses. And Kinvara, if they go out and win the match, they're definitely sound as well. Like, so.
Yeah. So there's a lot right now, no matter what. Exactly. And so with that, we'll move on to intermediate, and with the 4 quarterfinals intermediate played last weekend as well. First game of the weekend was Turloughmore again. The juggernaut it rolls on at both senior and intermediate. They're back into another county semi-final at intermediate, having beaten Cairnmore 313 to 16 points. A good show by Cairnmore by all accounts. They were 210 to 6 points down at half time, so 10 points down, and had Turlough on the racks for a lot of the second half. The third quarter, they were very impressive. But I suppose we talked about it before. Water break comes at the wrong time. They were 212 to 14 points down at the time, and so that minute or so, Turlough managed to regroup and get back on top for the final quarter, and kick on. The Conor Shaughnessy struck his second goal and Turlough's third in the 49th minute, and that was the key score, really.
Yeah, and was Carmore the lad sent off? Was it Barry or George Hanley?
Yeah, George was sent off in the first half. So obviously, look, it's going to be a huge loss for any team to lose a man, especially in the first half with a player of that caliber too.
Yeah,
you know.
I saw a bit of this game now. I didn't see a lot of it, so I can't make too many comments on it.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd be a massive loss. I know I spoke about him before. Like, he'd be a real stalwart out there in Carmore, like a goal getter, you know. But the bit I did see, as you say, the water break did kill them. But Turlough are good. They're a good side. Now, the one question I'd ask, did a Cannon play in there? Is it Barry or I can't remember? Brian.
That's Brian.
And did one of them come on for the Turloughmore seniors the following day?
No, there's a Brian Cannon, there's a Barry Cannon. Brian starts for the intermediates, Barry starts for the seniors, and there's a Brian Connolly as well. That's the fella that came on for the seniors.
Okay.
And he's been senior all year, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah. No, I thought the lad came on for the seniors, and I said, geez, if he's gone from there. Now, there was also, I think, a Dara Whelan there playing for Turlough Intermediates, got sent off, did he?
Sent off.
Well, yeah. I don't know, was it a straight red?
I think it was, as far as I know.
He'd be a massive loss now to Turlough, because I seen him hurling last year for their intermediates. To me, only Turlough could probably strong like at the senior level. He'd be on most senior teams now, to be fair. So he'd be a massive loss for Turlough's second team, like. But they'll be hard beat from what I seen at the weekend anyway.
Yeah, no, Damien Holland very impressive at centre forward with 1-2. Killian Hurney struck 4 from play. Conor Shoxley with the 2-2, 1-1 of that from play. You know, it's a fair outfit there.
They're very strong. Like, to be fair, Jesus, like, that's their second team. Like, as I said, their senior teams would only love to have some of the forwards. Their second team has them.
Yeah. And a word on Carnmore, I suppose there's a noticeable injection of a lot of the underage talent they're starting to produce. There's a lot of those lads have been introduced to the fold this year. You know, there has been a period of transition, and in fairness, it's been a year of development, both in terms of new personnel and results too. Results have improved from this year. A good year for them getting to a quarter final and putting up a good show, it has to be said.
Yeah, listen, I would have followed a lot of the Carnmore games there the last couple of years, like, you know, I knew a few lads out there and stuff, and things weren't going so well, but after the back of the minor win last year and stuff, now I'd say it's a club that's going to come strong again, to be honest. If they can keep all their good hurlers now and good young lads together, they'll be looking to get up senior pretty soon now, like, you know, in the next 2 or 3 years, like, you know. So that was a good year, to be fair, like, and it's no mean feat just to get beaten by Turloughmore, because the truth being told, Turloughmore, I know they got beaten by Clymer in the last round, but they didn't need to win that game, and it was no more than their seniors didn't need to win against Clarinbridge, and they showed what they did as well. Like, but Turloughmore were a fine intermediate side, find a lot of senior hurlers. So Carmore building, Carmore weren't looking to go win any county finals, obviously.
Yeah.
Training to win, but like, the truth, they knew deep down this wasn't the year to be winning the county final, but they certainly will have it in their sights, like, to build and get all them. I think there's a couple of them minors couldn't play this year, but they'll be able to play next year, so they'll be strong now, and look, they'll have to drive on as well now and put in the effort and try and, you know what I mean, try and build that club, because it's a big club. Like, they were playing senior titles, like contesting senior titles back in the 90s and stuff, so they're a lot of pride out of Carnmore, so it'd be great to see them coming up. But look, they'll have to work hard, get the young lads in, and hopefully reap the rewards. But like, nothing to be down about anyway, because Turlough are a fine side.
For sure, and I suppose for Turlough next, it's a repeat of last year's semi-final against Kilkenny, who were also in action last Saturday evening in the second of the doubleheader in Athenry, and this game was played in dreadful conditions, has to be said, not very conducive for hurling. But Kilkenny 118, Kilbeckenty 11 points. Kilbeckenty the surprise packets of the year, as we know well at this stage. You know, having got through a group with Mike Cullen and Mila Kercourt both in it, and this game wasn't until the last few minutes really that Kilkenny put that degree of daylight that put Kilbeckenty to bed. You know. They gave as good as they got for long periods. You know, Kilkenny had a nice few wides, has to be said, but Kilbeggan to put up a decent account of themselves, and in the end, I suppose just that bit more talent and a bit more all around threat for Kilkerran got them over the line. And Colin Curley's goal in the first half, 21 minutes in, that was a key score really for them, and that it gave them a bit of daylight at half time, having played with the wind. They led 1-10-5, which is probably what they needed, really, has to be said, with conditions as they were. And then when Kilbeggan came back at them a bit in the second half, Stephen Lambert came off the bench and scored 2 points. He was back from London for them. Fantastic to see him back in the Kilbeggan jersey, but they were able to kick on for a finish again and win it by 10 in the end.
Yeah, listen, Kilbeggan are probably a little like a Haska Fohana,
Yeah.
They had a great year, they'll be glad, they'll be happy. I saw Kilbeggan playing last year against Carnmore, and to be honest, I saw a lot of good in them. I said to myself, if they were organised a bit better now, and they were putting in the effort and the training was good, but you can totally see they've completely restructured things out there, and they were very well organised. You could see them on the line. They were well up for it. At times in the first half, the bits I saw, they fancied the upset. They looked to be going quite strong. The first 10 minutes, if you're as a neutral, to me, Kilbeggan probably were hurling Kilkerran off the park. To be honest,
Yeah.
and Kilkerran were struggling to get to grips with them, and they were playing a sweeper as well, and they seemed to be playing the system quite well. But as it turned out, Kilkerran got going, but they've been the last couple of county finals once again. They were hot favourites to go and win the game. They won it, but to me, Kilbeggan can take lots out of that game and regroup again. As I say, I know it's not an old cliche, regroup again and come back. But the truth is, they can, they have really good hurlers. You say, your man Stephen Lambert back, and the midfielder, what's his name? White helmet.
Egan.
A serious operator, they've loads of hurlers. And like I said, they played the sweeper. And hopefully they won't leave it at that now. And they look to try and get Brian Mahoney and the same lads back that they had this year and drive on, because that was a tough group. I know they didn't win a game this year. It's an unusual thing, to go to the final stage without winning a game, but they did, and they were their merits. They probably deserved to win 1 or 2 of the first 2 games anyway. I think my Cullen were quite lucky to get a draw against them. So they can hold their heads up high, Kilkenarn are probably on papers favourites to win the intermediate, and they give them lots of it for long spells, and the Dower evening probably ruined the game as a spectacle, to be honest.
Yeah.
From what I saw anyway.
Yeah, and Kilkenarn they're back where they want to be, and they'll cite improvement, I suppose, improvement needed for Turloughmore in the last 4, but looking at the team they have there, and I know they lost David Gannon, they lost to a red card, and they're already struggling. I know a bit. They've lost a couple lads in the full back line already.
Martin Ryan has been out now. He'd be a loss. He'd be a season campaigner, to be fair. So I don't know what injury he has now, but he didn't start the last day, and the red card to be a loss to them now as well. But
yeah, that's a worry for sure. But they have a lot of talent from kind of the half back line up. The Conor Caulfield's was playing wing back there now as well, which I suppose I suppose they kind of looked at the likes of having Brian Hickey back and having the Sean Connachtons and Ian McGlynn's back transition from underage into the attack. I said, look, will we go back and strengthen up the other end of the field and stick Conor Caulfield back there, which is probably a shrewd enough move, it has to be said. But Ian McGlynn, David Mangan and Brian Hickey full forward line, that's a fair line there, and I'm sure Ian McGlynn has the bit of freedom to kind of go about and try to get on ball as well, but
it's tricky to play against the sweeper as well. It's not always simple. It takes a while to get to grips with it. And in fairness to them, once they got going and they opened up, they ran. Probably the way they got over it was they ran at them and started using the hand pass and laying off the ball, because they created a couple of goal chances, especially in the second half. When they started opening her up. So look at. Say they're a strong side, all the lads you're naming there, they're all well capable senior hurlers as well. So they've one eye on the prize. Maybe they probably knew deep down they were going to take Kilbakenty as well, you know, not that they would be taking them for granted, but like them 2 county finals, you know, and it would have, you just know they would have been kind of thinking like we'll get over these, like they're looking to the bigger picture now, but they need to keep the eye on the prize now for the semi-final, because they'll probably need to improve again on that.
Yeah, for sure. And move on to Sunday then, like the Killimordaly, I know they're your neighbours, the recovery mission continues. You know, for many, they'd expected them to be playing intermediate or relegation semi-finals last week, I should say. But here they are, qualified for the intermediate semi-final off the back of a quarter-final win over Castlegar. 26 points to 17 have finished after extra time. 17 points apiece at the end of normal time, and what a display in 20 minutes of hurling in the extra time to win 9 points and no score. You know, it's fair going, in fairness.
Mad, yeah. And on that, like, geez, you'd have to feel sorry for some of the stalwarts of Castlegar. Jesus, not that they need any of us to be feeling sorry for them, but like, they didn't deserve to be bet 9-0. They didn't deserve to be bet 9-0 in that game in extra time. You know, it wasn't a fair reflection of the game, because the truth being told, Castlegar could have won that game in normal time. But back to Killimordaly, they remind me a bit of Kinvara last year. Like, you know, that's what we were saying to lads. You know, it's wide open. They're not a team that look like they're going to win the county final every day you look at them. But either were Kinvara last year, and you're seeing what happened. Like, so they're going about their business. They've plenty of lads there, like, you know, Fahy full back, and the brother was back, Liam, and Carey full forward at the start. The bit I saw now at the start, he was a handful laying off the ball and got a couple of great scores, and plenty of lads there. 2 cousins actually playing with them. Like, they're a good side. Like, you know, they brought on Micheál Dervin there to roll back the years as well. He was pinging over pints from frees there. I do play a bit of rugby with him, but yeah, geez, like, you'll have to admire them now. They're a bit young, that's the only thing. They were probably a little naive now, because Castlegar will be very, very physical. Like, you Sean Connolly, and geez, the big men all over the place there. You had Martin Cullen centre forward as well, and he was winning primary possession, and both of them were kind of in the half forward and full forward line, and they were laying off ball, and plenty of hurlers. Castlegar, they seem to be a little like Turloughmore now. Like, they're kind of, their second team is getting stronger. Like, because we played them last year when I was involved with Rahoon, like, and lads thought they weren't great, but I remember I said it before I came out of that game, saying like Castlegar were quite a good second team, and so it was a good result for Killimordaly for a finish. Like, you know, I know it was level in full time, but Jesus, I suppose the legs probably went from the older statesmen in Castlegar. Like, you know, a lot of them lads be well into their 30s, some of them even into their 40s. Like, so, you know, like, it's a young man's game. Like, it's into extra time, and Killimordaly had lads there 17, 18, 19, you know, so that probably helped. But as I say, that the result probably flattered Killimordaly, like, in extra time. But it wasn't a bad game. No, that was probably one of the, to me, was probably one of the better intermediate games, which is another good sign for Killimordaly. Like, you know, and if the pitch opens up and they get into Athenry, I think it might suit them a bit better, to be honest, because they're good ball players now, and Banaslow, it's a little more difficult. So they're younger lads, and they've good ball players, and they've ball winners in the half forward line, centre forward, full forward as well. So Killimordaly going along nicely, and no one is expecting it, but it's, as I say, it reminds me of last year, Kinvara, so nothing would surprise you. They'll fancy themselves now quietly.
Yeah, well, the fixtures for the semi-finals were confirmed today with the dates and the venues, and it is into Kenny Park. They're going to be going against Mike Cullen, who won their game at the weekend, 16 points to 15 against Abbeynagh. Drama at the end here, a late disputed Paul Flaherty effort, which was waved wide. He was adamant, Abbeynagh were adamant, lads in the stand were adamant that it went over the bar, but it was waved wide anyhow when Mike Cullen held on to win by a point. But the reality was Mike Cullen were the better team.
Well, the reality is, if it was a point, it was a point. It's disappointing, you know, like, but it is what it is. You know, it's a pity. It's something that'll come down to that anyway. I don't like to see anyone going out that way, but look, it was waved wide. It's done now anyway, and Abbey are out, like, so they'll be fierce disappointed, like, but they'll just have to move on now. And for Mike Cullen, like the bits I saw, they're probably going to need to improve now. You know, they were one of the teams I probably tipped to win the intermediate. But they seem to have changed their team around now a bit as well. Your man Aina Noon would have been one of their better forwards, midfielders. He seems to be back centre back, and it seems like they've really tried to strengthen their half back line, is from what I can see, and they have, like, you know, and it could be, it's just I wasn't overly impressed by them, but I didn't see it all, like, you know, I saw maybe half it, like, you know, but like that, just different. It just seems to be different. You watch a game at Ballinasloe and then you see a team in Athenry, and it seems to be a totally different team. You know, like watching Loughrea in the last year, right? Jeez, they're a way better team. Just an open space or something. So look, going on form, Mike Cullen will be favourites to me. They'll definitely be favourites, and they could even be strong favourites. And look at Abbey Knockmy were a senior team last year as well. So I know they were missing a few, but they were still senior last year. So all in all, it's probably a good result. Probably a good result for Mike Cullen. They're still in the championship semi-final. That's where you want to get. Like, no more than Barra last year. You don't care how you get there, and you don't care how you win it. You just want to get out of intermediate, and that's it. Like, and they're still in it. They have a good side. They're physical. That's the one thing now I'll say about Mike Cullen. They're big physical men, so they'll be well ready for the next game.
For sure, and we mentioned the graduation of youth into the Kilkenarn setup, and a similar story, I suppose, for Mike Cullen with Colin Cunningham into the team this year. So that's going to strengthen up your attack big time straight away. And I suppose that maybe that was half the reason for sticking Aina back, to maybe try to strengthen things up at the other end of the field. Like, has to be said too, you know, Aina Noon's gone back. It's the half back line. Kevin O'Donovan moved up the other direction. He's gone up centre forward.
Yeah.
And they played the last day without Niall Mannion as well, who's, you know, one of their top forwards for the last decade or so. You know, he'd be a huge loss for them. So looking at that, you know, Keane Foran and Cunningham and Phil McDonough, they were all very impressed with the full forward line, you know.
And to be fair, Aina Noon's a fine hurler now, like, and you know, it probably suits him centre back as well, like. He'll be good under the high ball. He's able to take frees. Like, he'd be very good on. They'd be very sure on the ball. Like, and if they've got that quality in the forward line, as if you go into at the line, you have a bit more space. Like, he will find them. You know, like he'd have a good hurling brain. Like, you know, and he's an effective player. Like, so it could turn out to be a great move, to be fair.
Yeah, and a few bad memories for them to banish. Of course, Canberra blitzed them last year in the county semi-final, and they didn't show up on the day. They were terrible. So a few wrongs to right there for them. Certainly they'll be going into the Clarinbridge game with the right attitude this year. Anyhow, that's for sure.
Yeah, there'll be a good battle there with Carey and Matt Donoghue now on the edge of the square. Be a great battle there. There'll be fucking at least 4 hurls each warranted there anyway. But, like, you know, like it will.
Timber,
Do you know, I know, but they're both able to hurl. Like, Kerry's able to win primary position. Matt's a fine hurler, strong as well. Like, you know, like, so it'll be a great battle. Like, you know, and the truth being told, like, Mike Cullen will they'll have to try and stop the dominance of Kerry, because a lot of their forwards are kind of speedy young lads, but he's able to hold it up, and he's in good shape, and he's hurling is good now as well. So, but it's a nice spine to Mike Cullen's team now when you look at it on paper as well, with Matt Donoghue full back, and I think Johnny Faherty, actually, he was kind of finished hurling there for a while. Has gone back in goals, but I'm not 100%. It looked like it was him in goals the last day. But
it was.
Aina Noon centre back, like, so they're quite experienced, to be fair. Now to Mike Cullen, to be more experienced, probably more experienced than Killimordaly, but like that, like what do Killimordaly do? Wait 3 more years or 2 more years, or say, you know, we're waiting to get lads experience. Lads that give up hurling, and lads that move on, and they play different things, and they go to college. So it's now or never. You just need to go and take the bull by the horns and try and win it now. That's the way they need to be thinking.
For sure. And just before we finish off, a word on the intermediate relegation semi-finals. Down beating Ceylon 23 points to 119 after extra time. A cracker by all accounts. Niall Kineen put up something like 16 or 17 points for Down, which is just ridiculous scoring. And of course, they didn't have him for stages in the group, you know, which
big loss.
It's as big a loss as they're going to have in reality, you know. So look, good to see them safe. But on the other hand, I suppose Ceylon would have fancied themselves to be hurling in quarterfinals last weekend, and now they find themselves in a relegation final, where they're going to be playing on Spidgel, who, look, I suppose not lined out without Killimordaly last weekend, which is, again, that's like Anna Down being without Niall Kineen, and then to go up against Mealy Kirkcourt, it was hardly ever going to go well for them, really. 421 to 110 finished. Aircourt never should have been there, but that's how it worked out this year. They got caught.
They'll be kicking themselves.
Yeah, but look, their year is finished, and they can regroup, as you say, and get set again and go again next year, and try to get the heads right and try to get the bodies right.
Yeah,
and have a good crack next year.
Yeah, there are two clubs there now, like Ceylon and Spiddle, and known lads from both clubs. Like, they love their hurling. Like, I'd be sorry to see either team going down now, to be fair.
It'd be tough.
A lot of work. They have a lot of work put in. Like, but you're looking at, someone has to go down, and that's just the way it goes, and someone probably has to come up. Well, now that I say someone has to go down, I'm not sure. I have to remember on there. I don't know, did someone go down the last, I don't know, many years, but yeah, I know, but they are, like, to be fair, they put in great work, and it's tough on the Spiddle lads anyway, because it's the same players, like, they're playing football, hurling. I don't know how they get down in the football, but it's sure, look at it is what it is, and so they can, if they don't win, sure, they better send the same letters that everyone else was sending the last couple of years.
Well, I'm sorry to report there's controversy surrounding their footballers in relegation as well at the minute, but
oh yeah. Yeah, they're in relegation, and the footballers are. Yeah, I think there was WhatsApps going around there, but as I said to a lad, you better send me the shortened version of that, because it was about 10 pages long. I said, I haven't time to be reading about Spiddle football. But we'll leave that for another day. We'll let the football men.
We will, is right, and we'll leave the chat there for another week, Chunky. We've it all covered there. A lot gone through, a lot of detail given, and a lot of good games over the weekend, and we'll be back next week. We'll have David will be back in harness next week to preview the county semi-final action and give an update on how relegation is going. So we might lead with that next week.
Well, the best of luck in the relegation match anyway, and look at, hopefully, as I say, you'll find out within a couple of hours after the game exactly, what the story is.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, look, that's it for another week. Don't be afraid to give us your reaction to the show. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'll try to improve it any way we can. But hope you all enjoy and listen, like, and share. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks a million. All the best.
Cheers. Thanks, Patrick.